Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing great. At the outset, we quickly go through the things that we have covered in the previous session. It was about FileIO. If you, for any reason, do not have such a folder, please make sure that you have C:/C# test folder on the root of your drive C. I'm not going to run all these, but you remember we started with this one saying that we have a file name at any location that you mentioned. We said if you use @ at the beginning, you don't need to have two backslashes. Then you say backslash doesn't have any specific meaning, it's just backslash. And then we said, let's have text writer, and we create kind of pen equal to new stream writer. And I said, I don't know why the constructor is different from the class, and the class is more abstract compared to the constructor that we have. We pass the file, it is going to get prepared to start writing. And then if you say writer.writeLine, it is going to write line your content inside the file. So the next part is in here, I asked you in the previous session, what is changed in this one? So it is possible to use more practical compared to abstract classes, saying stream writer. And I said the difference between these two, you can read this one at your convenience. What is wrong in this command? I asked you, I do not have any E drive, but it says write it in the. This is the most common problem that we deal with when you want to open a file in a place that it does not exist. This is something that we just created to make our reading from the file more interesting. You know that thread.sleep is going to pause the process, or for instance, when you say 100 millisecond or 0.1 of the second. And this is something that we created. We said, okay, millisecond, number of dots. And then we said my demo character. We said from I equal to 0, as long as it is less than number of dots, then we set I++. So we, for instance, write that square, and then we sleep for that number of milliseconds. So the other format that we tried to use, and that is what I ask you, is using the time. You remember if you say date time dot now, it is going to fetch the current moment, right? And then you can simply say, hey, get that current moment, add 5 seconds, for example, into it, whatever you say. And as long as it is not till that moment yet, just keep typing, keep just doing, keep writing that circle on the, square on the screen. I'm not gonna repeat this part at all, but what about this code, guys? Do you remember this one? We started writing on a file. This time, it was not just one string. We started, as you see, a loop. We said, okay, name, some equal signs, and after that, we started saying, write I and that too had two spaces, because when we have two digits, it's not gonna just make the table messy. And we are going to just write that table. And when you are done with that, you say writing is done and finish. This is just adding that frills into it to have some beauties more there. You remember we said, what if we want to read everything at once? What if we want to write everything at once? So there are two commands. One of them is, as you can see here, is write all text. In that case, what you need is to say, for instance, file name is equal to a path, which is a valid path. And then whatever you have, you need to put them inside a variable, right? You put them all inside a variable. And then, for instance, I said first my name, then plus equal means add it to the variable. And don't forget to have that /n because you won't have several lines. I did it here too. So you have everything inside contents. And then you say, hey, inside file name, just pass that variable. And this is just adding those frills into it, right? Yeah. How about reading? I told you if you want to read the stuff, this is a most common way of reading, saying that is the path. And this time, instead of pen, I'm gonna wear my glasses. So I'm gonna say, hey, I need an object, text reader, reader equal to new stream reader instead of stream writer. And then you say reader with glasses, read one line. If there is a line, you're gonna read it and you're gonna place it into that line. So here I said, let's just show it. I read the line again and I said, as long as we are not at the end of the file, just keep doing that. Means write what you have read and then read another line. So do it again, do it again, do it again. So you read one line, it's not null, means that we are not at the end of the file yet. Keep reading every line. And I told you, for opening and for closing, we need to say reader.close, reader dot or writer.close, right? The last thing that we said before, actually, we said, okay, make the file a little bit more productive. Look at here. Just one quick question from you all. Yeah. In here we said we want to write this code a little bit more productive. So you just need to read it before once, check if we are not at the end of the file, and then just write it and so on and so forth. But this is the easiest way. If you want to read everything at once, you have a short file, you just want to read it in one shot. You can just simply say file.read all text, whatever you have in that path, you are gonna read it and place it into a variable, and then you can simply show it. What is this is something that I showed you. Let me just go through the last two examples. This is something that we created in the previous session, and it's gonna show you a multiplication table. And the other one is just using codes. And look at this one. It's going to show you some codes that we have all at once. I want to get back and I'm going to share that code with you to this line. I asked you, what if I want to read everything like this? Guys, it's going to show all the multiplication table at once like this. If for any reason you don't have that file, if you go to your, if you go to your Telegram, you can see this is the last file. Please just download all these files, place them inside C# test, a folder in the root of your drive C. And run the code. Could you run it? Whenever you could finish running the code, then please give me a signal. Oh, if you don't have the code, let me just give it to you. You're right. I have to give that. Control C. Okay. So you can just run the code and see if it works. Okay. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds to make sure everybody. Okay. You remember, guys, can I have your attention? I hope that it was a quick review for what we did. Now look at this one. I told you what are the cases that we are not going to use read all. For instance, when the file is super lengthy, and you don't want to read the whole file, or when you just need to read everything up to a certain level, like after 2-3 pages, 100 lines, I'm done. I don't need to read 100,000 lines. Does that make sense? Imagine for this one, and you already have the condition that I want you to apply, and that is your first bonus question. You almost have the file. I want you to check to open the file and read as far as you are not in the line for x 10 equal to 40, you have the condition in your telegram. As far as you are not there yet, please keep reading. Coming. We want to check that is giving the answer, but we want to search for that while it's not, while the line is not. Right? Then that's one example as well. I just checked it. Yeah, please just fix that. So you have to use, yes, you have to use, it's not equal to that specific line, that specific content. How did you manage it? No, no, sir. You have to check that specific content. Right? Are you late cover? Well, that's not great job. Yeah. And you're allowed. I don't know if it's going to help. It is super easy. We are gonna read as long as, instead of saying not the end of the file, we are gonna say as long as it is not equal to that condition. Check it with your friend, see what is wrong. How do you pronounce it? Any people here? Let me just. Words? Right? I guess the threshold mixer. You have the most one number. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna, and exactly, I have a solution for it in no time. I'm gonna show. Okay, guys, can I have your attention, please? Okay, man. Look at this one. The problem that you faced was because of this. The best is to say line.trim. It's going to get rid of white spaces. And then we say, hey, read a line if line.trim means no space before after is not equal to, as long as it's not equal to that fourth line, just keep doing, huh? And then when we are done, we close it. So the next thing that we want to work on would be this, searching for a specific line. We actually want this time opposite of what we did. Guys, imagine you want to search in a lengthy list if there is a specific name in it, like you're searching if y long is in the list. So this time I want you just have the output 4 times 10 equal to. So it keeps reading and just fetch that line and print it. It's simple. Just do it. Okay, what could be the algorithm? What could be the mechanism? We could say, hey, go and read as far as you are not at the end of the file. And if you found the thingy, then just print it. Done? Done, Arafat? Can you send it to me to my private message? Arafat, thank you. Whoever could finish, please just send it to my private message. Excellent. Okay, done. Thank you. Saram. Okay, as many of you already guessed, it is as simple as this. Read all the lines as far as you are not at the end of the file. And if the trimmed line that you read is equal to this, just print that line, huh? And you keep reading. The thing is, the best is, if I were in Reza's shoes, the best is to say break here, because unnecessary, I'm going to just go through all the lines, which is not needed, right? So whenever you found it, why should you continue? Let me just replace this better version. Okay. The other thing is, oopsie, Control Z. This was the one. Now we get to the slides. The very first file, my suggestion always is when you want to open a file and start working on it, the best is to just go and see what the file looks like. So here, the personal info is the file that we are going to work on. Look at this. Here we have, okay, can I have your attention, everybody? Festus, thank you. Look at here, we have the list of names, and then the problem of this is we have 40 and 41 here, but for the rest, when the names are a little bit lengthy in a kind of correct order. Why? Because look at the thing that we have used here. We used tab. And if I go to the code, look at this part. We said, hey, use the split, use the tab. If the name is lengthy, I'm telling you, if the name is lengthy, it contains tab inside it, right, Manav? It contains tab inside it, and that is not a nice way of splitting the information. So what could be the solution? Because when you read that and you want to use tab as a kind of separator, the same story. My suggestion is I'm going to give you the a screenshot of, as I did yesterday, the screenshot of both parts. So please just, you don't need to have the comment part, right? So please just implement these, and after you are done, spend a few seconds try to understand what the code is doing, explain it to your friend, and I want a brave person to explain to the whole class. So now you have the whole code. Please type them. Anjan, thank you. Arjun, good. Done. Done. Awesome. The intention is you just write these things and make mistake, find your mistake. But if for any reason you left behind, so here's the code. Now, please spend a few seconds. Talk to your neighbors. What is happening and why mine doesn't work? It doesn't show anything. Okay, explain what is wrong with the code, so why it doesn't show anything. Yeah.
Because we not given any command to show it in the console. We just
Okay.
add it to the list in the.
So then the challenge is show something like name, weight, and age. Yeah. We have a class, right? So in the class, we need to override something. True. Can I see the code, please?
What do we have to see? I just control.
That's okay. How about reading for every person in the list, right? And write post. Done. Awesome. Thank you. Can you send it to me if you're done and you can just. So now in a group of 2, 3, maybe 4, talk to your neighbors, say what is happening in this code. Done, Arafat? Okay, who is willing to explain it to the whole class? You want to explain? Why not? Okay, please. So let me just start from the class. Okay, guys, let's listen to our friend. Yeah.
Okay, so we define some properties in our class. First, we have public string name, public int age, weight, and our boolean is Mary.
Arjun?
And we're using getters, and we don't have any setters because we're not setting anything. We're just getting it from the file that we're gonna read.
How it is possible? So when we have just getter, means that it is read only, right? And so when can we just define anything? Because you want to create something. Where can you define it? In the constructor. In the constructor, whenever we have just get, and we don't have any, for instance, private set or something, means that it is read-only. We can just use constructor to initialize and create objects based on that. Okay, you were saying, sorry?
And then we have our constructor, and we just initialize our properties with the string name and age, double weight.
Yeah, we pass name, age, weight, is married, and we're gonna create object in that. So perfect. Now we go to the code here. Okay.
Okay, so first we have our string file name, which directs our program to the file path, so we're able to open it with the next line. With this text reader, we create our reader object from the text reader class, and we pass in our file path.
So this is for creating that reader that Saram was kind enough to tell. And here we are gonna do what? We are gonna read the first line and place it into line. That's one part. But we did something in here as well. What is that? We create a list, but what kind of list? A full list or empty list at the beginning? It's an empty list, right? Let's call it persons. But that list is not any list. It's a list of objects. And what? Yeah, the texture that the material is person. It could be integer, it could be anything, string or something. Awesome. So please.
Okay, so we read the first line so we can run our loop while line does not equal null.
What if the file is empty?
Then the loop's not gonna run.
Awesome. Who cares? It's gonna just get out of that and close, right? But if it is not empty, yeah, you were saying?
If it's not empty, we're gonna make a string array called values, and first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna split the tabs from each line.
Lovely. So line dot split is going to split the whole line that we read based on what? Based on tab. Okay, awesome. Next.
So the next thing we do is we assign our name variable.
First thing first, we say that let's have string, guys, string array, right? We are going to have string array called values. That's the first thing, which is splitted, a string splitted based on the tabs. So the very first element that we have is what? Is name, bravo. So we are gonna say values 0. We fetch that name part and place it into string.name. It could be string.reza. It's not a sacred name, right? Why we use that name? Because later it's easier for us when we want to add a new object, a new person to the list. We say, okay, we have the name part. Sorry to interrupt you. We do the same thing for the second element, index number 1, that we have in the list. But remember, because that's the weight, it could be, for instance, 42.5 kilogram. So it's double, and we just change it to double and place it there. The next is going to be the age. So we are going to convert them into integer. And the last one is Boolean. which could be true or false for married or not married, right? And then we have everything, and we say the persons, which is what? Which is a list of person, right? We are gonna do what? We are gonna add that new things, and we keep reading that till the end of the things. Guys, give it up for Saram. Thank you very much, Saram. 2 bonus marks, 1 for doing it, 2nd for having the courage to come to explain. Thank you. Okay, now we saw the problem. What is the problem, Saram, that you saw in this file in general?
Yeah, no,
That's one thing. Okay, so guys, who could fix the output thing? How did you solve it?
Created a post method in the object itself,
Uh-huh.
and then we run a for each loop, and then we printed out our post.
Is he talking on behalf of all those lines? Okay, great. So I'm gonna share bonus mark between all of you. So let's go to the next, guys. Look at this. Here, as man said, we say public override string to string, and we get name, and age, and so on. But the other thing is, as here we say for every person in persons, but that person is not any type, it's a person type. Intentionally, I just made PRSN for person. And we are gonna say write that thing. Look at the thingy that we have here. It's not that much nicely, neatly showed over there, right? That's the problem of tab separation, because if you have a name, for instance, in some countries, the names are very lengthy. They have several parts. In some countries, the names are very short. So it couldn't be the best measurement system to split. That is why we have comma separated. And if you see here, we have those names, for example, right? So everybody, just let me change the name. What's your name? Festus. Let's just say Festus. And the last name is Asian. Asian B. Is it correct? Is it, except the age, which, oh, the weight should be, let me just, 40, 64, 62, or no, 56, and the age is 18. Everybody's 18 in this class. Okay, so guys, look at this. Here we have Control S. We have that thingy. The names are separated by comma. And what should we change in here in the code? Instead of /T, look at this one. We are gonna say split comma. And the other thing is the file name is personal2info. That's another file. You have all of them. So please make sure that you downloaded that file and just do those tiny, teeny changes and see what's gonna happen. Control C. I'm sorry, give me a second. I have to go and overwrite the file. C#, Control V, replace it. Now it's going to show Festus in the list as well. Yes. Okay. So guys, do you see such an output, everybody? 100%? Okay, Andy, everything is fine? Abdul, Mom, everything is fine? Okay. Santiago? No? Is it Apple? Yes, done?
No, I have an issue linking the document because I don't have like a window that I can upload to see.
Okay,
So
okay. Okay, just a second. One thing, just a second. Sorry, guys. Anybody who could successfully link that and has Apple? Anyone who has Apple and could link it? Would you please give a hand to? Yeah. Thank you. Because either I should have Apple to show you, or one of the people who has. Should I just show it to you? Thank you very much for. So let's just spend a few seconds, but look at the next one before I keep moving. What is this one? We want to read file number 3, personal 3, and that is the last file. That is the worst file. Why I'm saying worst? Look at this. Guys, what is the first line? Name. What is the second line? Weight. What is the third line? Age, marriage status, again, name, and so on. What is wrong with this type?
Difficult to segregate the
Huh. Right? So look at this one. It is very much error prone. Means that if by any accident you duplicate one of those values, for instance, 40, 40, and 41, then the time that it needs to read, for instance, true or name, it's gonna be the next value, right? If you duplicate unnecessary, or if you delete one line, that is the worst kind of thing that could happen. Okay. Okay, how about this, Philip? Just for a few seconds, listen to this, then you have time to work on it, because I don't want you to miss that part. Thank you very much. I appreciate your helping. The last file, I mentioned that every single info is in a separate line, right? Like name, weight, age, marriage status, and so on. What we are gonna do, the strategy to read that would be like this. We say, hey, go and read. Listen to this part. Here for the first time, we use something new, and we said using. Whenever you say using, you have a curly brace to start, you have a curly brace to finish. Means that you don't need to directly say close. Implicitly, it closes the file. Does that make sense? I repeat it. If you start from here saying using, and you have open and close curly braces, you don't need to explicitly say close the file. It does the job for you. That's the first thing. Look at the next part. The next part we say, let's have a string line, and then we say let's read, as long as it is not null, let's read the file as long as it is not at the end of the file. Means if there is a line, read it. If there is a line, read it. If there is a line, read it. So we keep doing that till the time that we get to the end of the line. Is it clear for everybody? Awesome. So you have already the first line. What was the first line? Name. Lovely. So get that and place it into name. You don't need to convert it because what you read by default is a string. Does it make sense? The next part, you say, hey, read the line again. This time, because you are gonna read the wait part, you have to convert it to double. So you say convert dot to double and place it in there. Just read the next line, read the next line, read the next line. I'm telling you, this is the worst way of saving and reading. Error prone, and that is why you never see such a concept in the time that you are really dealing with a industry or business problem or project. This is just to know. That's one solution. If I see somewhere, I know what is happening. So everybody, please, based on this part, the rest would be the same. You don't need to touch anything. Please just fix that part. And whenever you are done, give me a signal. Did you watch the recorded video, Edgar? Did you watch the recorded video for the previous session?
Yeah.
So how did you solve the problem with Apple?
He's showing how to.
No. I'm saying that while you were watching, how did you solve it? Because we had at least 10 different examples like that. Okay. Good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kanjan. Bravo, man. Juno, what's it?
And like, it's for the whole thing, it's
Ah.
not for this thing. You're like, I'm left, ignore you.
Done. Thank you. Done. Okay, so almost many of you have done it. I don't think that there is anything that we didn't discuss. For those who left behind, here's the whole code. So you have it. Guys, now it is 9:31 and we have 9 minutes to enjoy our life before we continue. Okay, look at this one. I found a few websites for you. So for the shortcuts, you're gonna have all of them. The shortcuts that you can find in this website, there are tons of them. Actually. And as you see, for instance, prop tap, and the other prop full tap, or the Microsoft shortcuts that mentioned, or whenever you want to generate constructor, you can simply press Control and dot, and it's going to generate the constructor for you. The other thing is now we are getting to a new topic, which is static. And for static, my suggestion is just be very much with me. No need to, do anything. I have provided all the needed practices, but before anything, let's watch these two quick videos. Guys, the estimation is we might need to stay 10 minutes extra. I try not to.
C# includes the static keyword, and this keyword can be applied on classes, variables, methods, properties, operators, events, and constructors. But, however, it cannot be used with indexers, destructors, or types other than classes. When using the static keyword, it means that the class cannot be initialized using the new keyword. So the properties, the variables, the methods, etc. can be accessed directly by using the class name instead of creating a new object. Let us go to Visual Studio and see how we can use the static classes. In here, I have already created a student class. Now, let us see how we can access the full name property from the student class. So, inside the main method, let us write student is equal to new student. So we see that by using the student class, we are initializing a new object.
Just wait a second. We know that class is just an idea, and it doesn't occupy any place in the memory. What if you want to occupy memory at the same time? The solution is static. So I repeat it. If you just say, I have a class, it means that that's a plan. It doesn't occupy any memory. It's like, I have a cottage plan. Okay. Can you invite us? No, there's no place for it. But if you implement that, it's going to be static, right? The problem of a static is you are not able to create several objects. You define an idea and you occupy memory just for the sake of that specific object. Does that make sense? It's like defining one idea and creating just one thing out of it. Look at the rest.
The value we write in here student dot full name is equal to, and then provide a name. To use the student info method, we write in here student dot student. If you want to see the result, press Ctrl F5, and here we have the result. Now, let's change this class to a static one. So, first of all, let us add the static keywords. For that, we write in your public static class student. Now that we changed the class to a static one, we need to change all the members to static members. So, for example, the title. Here we need to write static title, and we need to write static void student info, and we need to change the full name property to static as well. And we
It's obvious. It's not possible that you say that, hey, I implemented that cottage plan and one of the rooms is still on the map. Hey, come on. When you implement, everything is implemented. Does that make sense? When you create one idea and make it happen inside memory, every member of that should be in the memory. That's one thing. Is it possible to do it the other way around? Yes, it is possible. You can have some members static, but not everything static. Like what? Imagine that you want to have Centennial College as the school for all the students that you generate from this class. I repeat it. Imagine that all the students are from Centennial in this example. Then you are going to say, hey, the school is the class level, not the instance level. It's not like name of me, man, man of, and so on. It's in the class level, Centennial College, and I don't want to change it for every instance. Does that make sense? We are going to have tons of examples. Don't worry. Just have some ideas.
static class, we cannot initialize an object by using the new keyword. We can use directly the class name. So for example, if we want to say the full name, we write here just student, full name. And if you want to execute this method, we just write in here student dot student info. Let us remove this line and press Ctrl F5 to see the result. So here we see that we have the same result. But why so?
One question, why we can't have this line? Awesome. So new is just to occupy a space for the idea, while you already have occupied the space for that idea. Does that make sense? When you have that, oh, why should you? Yeah, exactly.
Dot student info. Let us remove this line and press Ctrl F5 to see the result. So here we see that we have the same result. But why should we use static classes in C#? The main benefit of using a static class is that you can use the members of a static class without creating an instance of that class. Just like here, so to use the full name, we didn't have to create an object. The same way to use the student info method, we didn't have to create an object. Also,
What I like about him is he knows what is happening, but he doesn't know the reasons. He says that, okay, in the static, you shouldn't, by why? You know what I'm saying? And I very much like that. Most of the programmers that you're gonna see in industry, your future colleagues will be like him. They can make it work, but if you ask why, there is no answer for it. Okay.
well known to be used to create extension methods, which are methods that enable you to add methods to existing types without creating a new derived type. But we are going to talk about extension methods in more details in an upcoming part.
Okay, this is something that we are going to talk in our after the midterm topic.
Welcome to the Draft Academy. My name is Mike. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to use static methods in classes. Well, a static method is basically just a method that belongs to the class itself. So a lot of times when we create methods inside of our C# classes, usually those methods will be used on objects. So we can have an object of a specific class, and then that object can use those methods to do different things. But a static method in a class is a method that belongs to the actual class, which means you don't have to create an object of that class in order to use it and access it. And these can be extremely useful. And there's a lot of circumstances where you want to create classes that have static methods inside of them. So I'm going to show you guys basically how that works. Down here, you'll see that I have this little line. It just says console.writeLine. And then over here, I'm saying math.square root 144, right? Essentially what's happening here is there's this class in C#, which is called math. And inside of that math class, there's a bunch of these methods. And one thing you'll notice here, when I went to access this square root method inside the math class, I didn't have to create an instance of the math class. And normally, up to this point in the course, whenever we wanted to use a class or use any of the functionality that a class described, we had to create an object. So I would have to say like math, my math is equal to new math, right? I have to create an actual instance of the math class like that. But you'll notice that down.
Okay, guys, why do you see there are errors over there? Why? Lovely, you already know that. Because the math class is a static class, it already occupied memory, so it's not possible to create an object from it.
Do that, right? In fact, when I try to create an instance of the math class, I'm getting this error over here. So down here, I can basically just say math.square root, and I'm able to use this method without having to create an instance of the math class. And this is an example of a static method. So a static method, like I said, it's a method that belongs to the class, which means we don't have to create an instance of the class in order to use it. So I could go ahead and run this program, and we should get back the square root of 144. So we should get back 12. I'm going to show you guys how we can do this and how we could basically create something similar to the math class. So up here, I'm going to create a new class, and you can either come over here, right click, and go to add, and then click new item, or we can also go up here and we can click project and click add class. So I'm going to do it this way. And over here, you can see I'm just clicking on class. And why don't we just call this useful tools? So this is going to be our useful tools class. And you'll see over here that I basically just have class useful tools. And inside of this class, if I wanted to create static methods, all I have to do is come down here and I can just say like public static, and I can create a method. So why don't we create one called say hi, and it's going to take one parameter. So it's going to take a string name, and then we will basically just have this say hi. So it's going to console.writeLine, and we're just going to print out hello name. And actually, whoops, forgot to put a return type here. This should be void. So public static void, say hi, string name, and it just prints out hello to whatever name gets passed in. Extremely simple method over there. So what I could do is I could actually come down here and I could access that method directly without creating an instance of the useful tools class. So down here, I can just get rid of this, and we can just go ahead and call this directly. So I could say useful tools dot say hi. So I didn't actually have to create an instance of the useful tools class. All I did was just access this method directly. So I could pass in my name like Mike, and now we'll be able to run this method without having to create an instance of the useful tools class. You can see over there, everything's running just fine. Now, this is an extremely useful thing. So what you could actually do is you could create a class over here, and it could just be contained of, these static methods. And that's essentially what that math class is that we looked at before. The math class is basically just a class that has a bunch of these static methods inside of it that are used to do different things. So if you just have a normal class, maybe a class that's modeling some sort of real world entity, you can include static methods inside of there, and then the callers don't have to create instances of that class in order to use them. Another thing you could do is set up a class that is solely designed for this purpose. So for example, that math class is actually what's called a static class. So you'll notice when I tried to create a instance of that math class before, I said like math, my math is equal to new math. I'm not actually able to create an instance of the math class. You'll see I'm getting an error here. And this is because the math class is a static class, which means you can't create an instance of it. But you'll notice with the useful tools class, I could create an instance of it and it's going to be no problem. So like this is actually like a useful tools object. So in certain circumstances, you're going to want to do that. Like you're going to want to be able to have a class with static methods that can have an object created of it. But in situations like with that math class, you're not going to want to do that. So what you can do is you can come over here and we could just say static class useful tools. And now we're not going to be able to create an instance of the useful tools class. So you'll see down here, I'm getting this error now. It basically says, cannot declare a variable of static type useful tools. And then over here it says, cannot create an instance of the static class useful tools. So that's sort of like two different ways that you can use this. But these static methods are extremely useful. And like I said, there's a lot of situations where you're going to want to use them basically just to define functionality on the class level instead of on the individual object level. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please.
No, not this. Okay. So we got a general idea, but exactly the same examples that you saw solved by Mike, I expanded. And I'm going to ask you some challenging questions. And hopefully you can just take care of my concerns and answer my questions. So the first thing is this one, guys, very simple. Just you're going to have the code, nothing specific about the code. So please just run it. So the class is not public, right? But the method is. Look what's happening. I defined a class. Some people say, hey, I don't like this type that the class is on top and the me too, but I didn't change anything. I wanted you to just get familiar with different forms. Why I like to have class program on top, that's personal preference. Apart from that, whenever you add any new class, it's going to be on the continuation of the code, right? So simply you have the main part on top. Anything you want to add, you're going to just add them. So here simply, because we said public static void say hi, you just need to say name of a class and then directly using the method. You don't need to create an object out of it. Let's look at the next example. Here, I just said, let's have a name property, right? To make the class a little bit more class. And I had an intention. So everybody, please just create prop tab kind of thing. And make name properties. We didn't use it, but just let's have it. So you see, we have a static member and we have non-static member. Done. Okay, lovely. Look at this one. Here, I just said, and I want you to please just do that. Say, let's create one object out of the class, call it useful tool with small u, and then pass name, pass test as the name. and then show the name. So you see, hello from, I'll replace my name with your beautiful name. So you see that it's going to show you hello from Kanjan, for instance, not Jaina. And the test is the value that you assigned to the property, huh? And you have it there. Everything is fine. Okay. So is it possible to define name as static as well, guys? It's not a trick question. Yeah, it is. Why not? Okay. What is wrong with the following code? Actually, I couldn't solve that. So what's wrong with that?
The name property is not static.
I spent tons of time I couldn't discover. Awesome. Manav. Wait. Good job, Manav. Let's just say, as Manav said, hey, look at this one. We have static class, but one of the members is not static. So we simply say static, and then it's going to resolve the issue. All the members would be static. Then, because the class is static, we have bigger problems. How can we just solve that? Yes, please. Means that here I can say this one, and here I can say this one. And what is this? What was the problem here? Exactly. We already occupied memory for it, right? So we don't need to have that. Right? Awesome. Manav, right? His face was like, what the heck? I said it. Okay, let's go to the next part. Okay, so apparently it works. Let's go to the next part together. What is the other challenge? Okay, what is wrong with this code then? So the static is static. We have a static here. Everything is fine so far.
It's a private class, but
Look at this one. This is a solution for the previous one, man. Don't make it. Okay, so guys, what is wrong with this one? We already talked about it. I just want to.
There's already a bit like the.
Awesome. So math is a static class, right? Okay. So one of the useful websites that I found was this one. And guys, everybody's different in learning. So imagine that I didn't get from the class what is a static. So let's just see. In C#, static means something which cannot be instantiated. Guys, we cannot learn everything from one file. So it says that it's not possible to instantiate, but now you know why we can't instantiate it, because it's already in the memory, right? So you cannot create an object out of a static class and cannot access static members using an object. C# classes, variables, methods, properties, operators, events, and constructors can be defined as static using the static modifier keyword. So, and it says, for instance, apply the static modifier before the class name and after the access modifier to make a class static. The following defines a static class with static fields and methods, in other words, with all the static members that it could have. So you see, we have static in all the places. But spend a few seconds, guys. You have I intentionally do not send you the code that I have. I want you, this is the code that I'm going to send you later. But at the moment, I want you go there, you copy and paste the code first in a group of 2, 3, discuss what is happening in the code. Run it, and then get back to me, please. Any volunteer this time from this line? Don't worry, this line is already, or this line, these two. You want to explain? Yes, you can just. Just one thing, we start from the class part. Yes, please.
We are making a calculator class which is static as well as public, and inside that we are defining 2 variables like result storage.
That's perfect. If you don't mind, explain it to the class with confidence. Send some love to people. Yeah, okay.
So here we are defining a result storage, which is a static class, a
Mhm.
static variable. Afterwards, we are defining a type field and that's also static. And after that, we are making a function which is a static sum, which takes 2 variable and returns the result of that. Afterwards, and then it defines another class method. Yeah, and it takes 1 parameter. It assigns that parameter to the result storage, and it assigns it.
Excellent. So because the result storage is a private
Yeah, that's why-
field, and yeah, we cannot, I mean, just do anything except we use that storage method. So kind of it's like a setter sort of thing, right? We get the value and just we place it there. Okay, so now we are ready to go. Guys, you got everything from here, right? Thanks to his flawless explanation. We have as you see, we have the next part. We have the field. We have actually 2 fields. There is one thing, guys, let me just tell you one important thing. There are 2 school of thoughts in this simple thing. One say when it is field, you have to start, that's a good practice, with underscore small letter, right? When it is field, no matter what it is. Some people say no, when it is public, you can just use capital letter. But I reserve capital letter for methods and for properties. Guys, there is not one standard. Everybody could have their own standards. So that is why you see here they assigned capital letter. And the rest is fine. Yeah, you were saying?
So now in the class program, there is a main method in which it, first of all, defines a variable result in which they directly access the sum method of the calculator class using the class name calculator. And they call that function. Then afterwards, it stores the value calculator dot stores. It calls the store method, which is inside the calculator, and assign the result variable into that. And
Lovely.
after that, it prints the result.
Excellent. So we get those two values and it's gonna bring it to here. So returns the sum of them that we are gonna leave it in there in the result. And then we say store the result and it's going to call this one. It's going to pass this into the field that we have. And that's pretty much it. And for the reading part, there is no problemo because we say result, so we can just simply write this on the screen. And for the type part, what is happening here?
We are accessing the static variable.
Excellent. We are gonna access it and place it into calc type. Is it possible to change it? Yes. We change it. It's in a part of memory. And then we are gonna just print that change the value, right? Okay, let's give it up for him. Awesome. So by saying that, actually, this part is done. So we can simply just see the result. And the next part is another useful website, and they are all before we start the actual content of the slides. Let's go to the other website. Look at this. I very much like especially the second part when it says static variables versus instance variables. Okay, guys. One of the things that I want you to look from now on is look at it with a criticism and criticizing glasses. Is there anything that we can do better? One thing first, here we have a student class. Imagine that we are talking about Centennial College. So the Centennial College would be for all the students. That is why this one is in the class level. Means you're not gonna link it to every single student. Yes, I know that Festus is at Centennial College. Khan is from Centennial College. So we don't need to link every single member into Centennial. And that is why when you create a new student, you're gonna just say S1.student, just use your name. But for the school one, guys, here we don't say S1 dot, we say student, that's the class level, right? So I want you please first go there, and this is the beautiful facility that many of the professional websites have. You click on it and then bring it here. I use your beautiful name instead of the current names and use Centennial College. I'm sorry, yes. The link to the website. Thank you, Festus. Control C. You have it? No, Jordan, and think why not. It's not a property, it was a field. Okay, guys, did it work? Everything worked? Awesome. So now we have more understanding where we should use static and where we shouldn't. I want you, please, this is for slide number 4. If you see, I intentionally wanted you yourself go to slide number 4 of the book and take a look at the example that we have. Is it that much? I'm gonna share the slide quickly in a group. I want you to, again, no matter if it is written by Reza or any other person, what are the critiques that you could have to the code? First thing first, it is not readable. Look at this one, Control C. If I see a code like that, it shows that the person is messy in the life as well. Very simple, hey. Now I can understand something, right? Now I can understand something. Now I can understand the getter part and so on. Huh? So I want you to spend a few seconds, see what is happening here. Is the class static? Well, no. Is the balance static? No. Is the interest rate static? Okay, what could be the usage for that? Imagine that, imagine that you have an account in HSBC. Am I right? Yeah, Hong Konger. So then the interest rate that you have should be similar to the interest rate of time, right? Is it the, imagine that it is similar. Hey, come on. Everybody should have 0. For instance, .99. You shouldn't specify that to a specific person. It should be the class level. So any person that you create in that class, they should benefit from the same interest rate. So that is why, guys, I'm telling you why we use static. So that is why we have the interest rate here in the class level, not in the object level. And then we say set interest rate, and imagine after a while, based on some regulations, they decide to change the interest from 0.02 into what? 0. Man, here is Canada. Even for 0.001, they negotiate for 6 months. And they're gonna start applying after 6 months. And still people nagging. So look at this one. Here we say set it into 0.025. And after that, we want to see what is happening. I don't know why, that was my concern. When I run the code, it shows because it is the balance for the account number 1 is 100. After applying those thingies, I mean the interest rate, it should be 102. for the one who has $200, it is 204. And I understood because it is 2.25, I mean 0.025, it is going to be 102.5 and 205. That makes sense, huh? But I couldn't understand how it was implemented. This is kind of, yeah, puzzling part for me. I want you in a group of 2, 3, or 4. Just sit together, think about it, and a brave person gets back to me what is happening. Okay, so how about see if there's any other thing. Okay, guys, anybody could take care of that part, please? Man, you want to say, please?
First is the method to set interest rate, which if you wanna make the new interest rate, we use that method. Then this is to pass down the balance, because balance is private, we need to make a
Constructor.
constructor to pass it down. Then we create a another getter in which we want to give the final value, like the initial balance plus the new balance, right? So in order to get the new balance, we multiply the interest rate with the previous balance, and then we add to the original. So we get like 100 plus, if it's 2%, 102, and the new is 2.5, so like 102.5.
Well, that's not very realistic example, first thing, because we should be able to set balance, right? But imagine that this is the way that we code it. It means that when we have only get and we do not have any set, means what? Means it's read only, right? And the only place that we can just, touch the value would be through the constructor. So we just, say, whatever it is, place it inside. And the thing is, and that's the beautiful part, and we are going to use it a lot pretty soon. You're going to see that whenever you want to get value from it, whenever you want to read it, you don't want to read the pure value which was 100 before. You want to say, okay, what is going to happen after applying the interest? So that is why you're going to say return to me balance plus the balance interest rate kind of thing. Does that make sense? Means it's going to bring, if it is 100, that's 0.2 before the change, or it's going to be the thing after the change. Thank you very much. Let's give it up for man. Yeah. Okay, the other thing that I want to tell you by actually how we can read the slides in 2 minutes. It says that the definition of static is showing little or no change, action, or progress. So something which is stagnant, stable. The static modifier to declare a static member which belongs to the type itself rather than to a specific object. The static modifier can be used with classes and some class members, not all of them, like indexers. There are exceptions. such as field methods, properties, operators, events, and constructors. It cannot be used for indexers, destructors, or don't worry, after the midterm, you're gonna have those kind of things. Sorry. And there is a single copy. That's it. Means whenever you define a static, you make one object with the class name that you have. So there's just one copy, one place in the memory. So all the objects of the class all shares the same copy. Should be share, but anyway. And if it is changed, then all the objects, even those that were previous created, as well as those that will be created in the future, will have the new values instantly, can be used to count the object instantiations. Imagine that you want to count the number of cars. You remember that we had it in one of the few sessions that we make a game and you generate a car. You want to have a variable to count the number of cars that you have created. So it shouldn't be in the level of object. It should be in the level of class to take care of all the things that you have created based on that, right? And so on. So these are the examples that we have gone through it. And I strongly recommend, these are the things that we have just explained. I use the slides, guys, for reviewing the things. And it says that constructor, you may implement a static constructor just once. We are going to do, it's going to be very rare cases that you use that. And now we know for the things like math, console, convert, and so on, they are all static classes. And we don't need to create any object out of them. Use them as the review thing. So I don't want you to spend too much time. The time that you need to spend more would be on the samples and examples. Guys, the slides were not my very much type, those that initially they were generated by Centennial. Lots of, spaces here and there, and my design is minimal. I want to have, I'm a very Google-like person, so I just want to have more white spaces to write my note. So that's why you see one of my colleagues helped me to go through all those slides and actually change them before the semester started. And once in a while, I just add a few notes into this, but the skeleton is 99% the things that my colleague was kind enough to provide. This is one thing. And for the next part, you're gonna see, I show you, and because if I make a kind of gap or something, it takes time to get back to the speed that we already have to read the stuff. I just want to tell you one thing here. You see, I provided how many videos? 5 videos, 5 videos. And you see that here are some websites for properties. We already have talked about the properties. I need to emphasize on a few things. Guys, even before the semester, I spent time to make sure the content would be as best as I can. I'm telling you, there are two different things. If somebody claims that I am the best, well, I've seen such arrogant people. But I very much like people who say that I tried my best. And there is a huge difference between these two. And I think that we are all responsible to try our best. So there's no room in future to say that, what if, guys, as a person who is 2 years older than you, I'm going to tell you one thing. Don't leave that what if in your life. Whatever crazy thing is, do it. Because later you're going to say, what if I did something different? And the only thing that you're going to pile up and just feel not happy about is the knapsack full of what if. And actually, you did lots of things at the moment that I was not courageous to do a fraction of it when I was at your age. Like coming to another continent. I remember the first time, just I'm telling it and forget it immediately after that. I remember the first time that I stepped far from my parents. I was 24. I started crying. So it was not easy. I was like, I need my mom. So you did a big step in your life. Just tap on your shoulder, know that you're on the right path. But the thing is, don't be satisfied in where you are. Just expect more. I told you all those things to tell you one thing. For the quizzes, for the motivational task, all the credit goes to Vivian, one of the team members that now she's teaching in, can imagine, in another college. And I remember where she started in terms of programming, because it's gonna have a nice end of a story thing. I'm gonna tell you. I very much like that she makes fun of me in the first semester that we had. She couldn't even copy and paste properly the content into one file. I'm telling you. And guess the jump that she had to provide such motivational tasks in less than 4 months. So I saw that progress and I saw people like her. And the blame is on me. Not every content that you have is in the same standard. For instance, I don't very much like the assignments. I'm telling you. The blame is on me, but that was not my work. If I want to spend good amount of time, I'm going to just make something different. At least it's going to be something close to the quizzes. But believe it or not, for just 6 quizzes that I generate every week, it takes something like 8 hours. You may laugh at it, but it's so I don't have the time, but I'm going to show you what to do. Guys, all of those things are the excuses to learn. All these things. And if you see that, hey, Reza, I can't understand this, don't make yourself suffer for something which is not necessary. Find your own way of learning. At least people know that they don't have any problem with Reza for marks and grades. Yeah, those people that they just want marks, they have problem with me. But those who want to get feedback and get the progress report from Reza, I don't think that that's an issue with me. So wherever you are, wherever you will be, and the progress, all the time. And that is why I know that who were present in the class, who were absent, and I have seen some people that after 2-3 weeks, they show up and say, hey, Reza, can you just answer these questions in Telegram? I say, okay, if you want to get the answer, please come to the class earlier. I'm going to be there 10 minutes earlier. Okay, telling you all these things, these are the approaches that I strongly recommend. If Reza is not your cup of tea, or for any reason you cannot click to any of the profs, this is the approach. Let's go to the first one.
In this tutorial, I'm going to talk to you guys about using getters and setters in C#. Now, a getter and a setter are basically 2 types of methods that we can define inside of our C# classes, which will essentially control the access that people have to the attributes of those classes. And essentially what this does is it kind of like makes your classes more secure. So it kind of allows you to define like what data is valid for specific attributes and what data isn't valid. And really getters and setters are extremely useful. There's a lot of different scenarios where you want to use them. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys one specific scenario. We're going to talk about like how to set these up and essentially just how they work. So what I've done in preparation for this tutorial is I actually created another class. It's this movie class over here. And this movie class is very simple. It's basically just modeling a movie inside of our program. So this is sort of like, you know, the template for the movie data type.
Linux RS helps you
And I said that every movie is going to have a title, a director, and a rating. And then down here, I created this constructor where I basically passed in a title, a director, and a rating, and I assign all of those values. So this is a very simple class. And, like I said, it's just modeling a basic movie. And then over here in my program, I created 2 movies. So I have one called Avengers, and it's just the Avengers with director Joss Whedon, and it's PG-13. And then we have Shrek with director Adam Adamson, and it's rated PG. So pretty simple program, right? We're basically just creating a couple different movies. But here's one of the problems that we actually have with this program. And it might not be super obvious right away, but the problem has to do with the movie rating, right? Now, generally, when movies have ratings, they can only have specific ratings, right? So if we have a movie, like generally, it's only going to be able to be G, PG, PG-13, R, or NR, right? And maybe there's some more ratings, whatever. But let's just say that these are all the valid ratings that we can have for a movie. So a movie can either be rated G, PG, PG-13, R, or NR for not rated. And let's say that we want to enforce these rules inside of this movie class. So we want all the movies in our programs to only be able to have one of these ratings. And it can't have a rating other than the ones that I specified down here, right? Well, the problem is, how do we enforce something like that? Right? Because what I could do is I could easily come over here and change the rating of Avengers to dog, for example. And now if I was to come down here and print out the Avengers rating, for example, if I came down here and said console.writeLine Avengers.rating, when I print this out, it's actually going to print out the rating. So it's going to be able to print out dog. So dog was the rating that we gave to it. But dog isn't one of the valid ratings down here. Another thing I could do is, even if I set this to PG-13 over here, so if this was like set to PG-13, I could still come over here and manually set it. So I could still say like Avengers.rating is equal to, dog over here. And it's going to be the same scenario, right? I'm still able to set this value equal to dog. So what I want to show you guys is how we can prevent this from happening. In other words, how can we make it so that the only possible ratings for the movies are one of these 5 ratings that I defined down here? And we can actually use something called getters and setters. And in order to use these getters and setters, we're going to have to modify a couple things. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to close off access to this rating property, this rating attribute. And what I can do is I can actually come over here to my program, and you'll see that all of these attributes are public. So we have public title, public director, and public rating. And I don't really talk about this too much yet, but public essentially means that these can be accessed by anyone. So any other program, any other code that we're dealing with can access any of these attributes. So public just means it's open to everybody, it's open to the world. But there's actually another modifier that we can put in front of here. And instead of saying public, I could say private. And what this means when I say private, this means that only code inside of this movie class is going to be able to access the rating. So only code that is contained inside of these curly brackets over here in this side of this movie class is going to be able to access this. And you'll see now when I go over to program, I'm getting an error down here. So essentially what this is saying is we can't access the rating because it's private. So because the code over here is inside of the program class and it's not inside of the movie class, it's not going to be able to access the rating. So that's the first step in being able to enforce these ratings, is we need to make the rating field private. So I need to cut off access from anybody else.
Guys, the problem is even if I buy a car, it's not gonna stop. It happened to me. Once I bought one of the services and I said, I bought it, why you still keep giving me this?
What I want to do is I want to create 2 things called getters and setters. So we're going to create getters and setters for this rating attribute. And basically what these are going to allow us to do is it's going to allow outside code. For example, the code inside of this program class, like down here, it's going to allow code like this to both access the rating and modify and set the rating. So those getters and setters are going to be really important. And we can define those through what are called properties. And a property is basically just like, it's kind of like a little method, but it's a special method that's going to basically allow.
If somebody asks you guys, because I saw that many of you who come here, awesome, yeah, you born as instructors, profs. So you're gonna just either be, unfortunately, prof in future, or you're gonna teach your team members in future as team leaders, senior developers, and so on. One of the thing is you have to tell them actually what is happening behind the scene in a short way that it's going to turn to something like a proverb for those people. Why, Bob? Right? For instance, simply if you say properties are wrappers around fields. Properties are wrappers around fields. Means the one who's going to take care of the storage part is field. But the one who's going to filter it and take care of it would be properties. Does that make sense? Just with that definition, let's continue.
And a getter and setter. So what I want to do is I can just say public, and I can just say string. And what I want to do is name this, generally what you're going to do is you're going to name it the same as the attribute over here, but in capital letters. So I'll name this public string rating. And then down here, I'm going to make an open and close curly bracket. And inside of here, I need to define two things, or I don't need to, but I'm going to define two things. So I can just say get, and I'm going to make an open and close curly bracket. And then I'm going to say set, and I'm going to make an open and close curly bracket. And these are essentially going to be getters and setters. So a getter is going to allow us to get the rating attribute. You'll notice over here, I'm trying to get this rating attribute by saying avengers.rating, but I'm not able to do it, right? I can't actually access this rating because it's private. And so the job of the getter is to give me that. So I'm just going to come over here, and inside this get, we're just going to say return rating, and I'm going to put a semicolon there. And so basically, whenever we say rating now, and we want to get it, it's going to return the rating. Now, this setter is going to allow us to set the rating. So it's going to allow me to modify the rating. So if I came over here and said avengers.rating, and you can already see it's trying to make me use this capital letter, is equal to dog, it's going to yell at me because this is a private attribute. So it's not going to let me do that. And that's the point of this setter. The setter is basically going to allow me to do that. So what I can do in this setter, though, is I can define a specific rule. So I can basically say, like, hey, you can only set this value to be a certain value. And so what I want to do is I want to check to see if the value is one of the valid ratings. And if it is, if the value they're trying to set rating to is one of the valid ratings, then we're going to go ahead and set it. Otherwise, we're just going to do something else. So I want to say if, and I want to check to see if the value that they passed in other words, the value that they're trying to set to rating is equal to one of the valid ratings. So what we can actually do is we can say if the value, and value is going to represent whatever got passed in. So value is going to represent whatever they're trying to set the rating to. So I can say if value is equal to, and we're just going to do one for all of these. So if the value is equal to G or value is equal to PG, and I'm going to do this one for each of the valid ratings. So I can just say, or value is equal to, and over here we can just put PG-13. So I'm going to say PG-13, and we're just going to do two more. So value is equal to R, and then the last one is going to be for N. Then over here I'll say, or value is equal to NR. So if it's equal to one of these, in other words, if the value that we pass in is equal to one of these, then we're going to be able to just set that as the rating. So I can just say
I can use,
rating equal to value.
I'm going to give you bonus mark, just show it to me. One of my friends make lots of fun. So it's going to be, not now, later. Yeah.
Otherwise, though, I'm just going to set the rating equal to NR. So I'm just going to say rating is equal to NR. So if they add in an invalid rating, in other words, if they add in a rating, if they try to set this to a rating that's not G, PG, PG-13R or NR, then it's just going to get set to not rated by default. So this getter is going to allow us to get the rating, and this setter is going to allow us to set the rating. But you'll notice that in order to set the rating, we have to go through this if statement, right? So they can try to pass in whatever rating they want, but if it's not equal to G, PG, PG-13, etc., then it's just going to get set equal to not rating. And the reason we needed these getters and setters was because.
Okay, just before we continue, guys, let me ask you something. We have here, what do we call it? We have, what is this thingy? Constructor, lovely. So for constructors, this gentleman used what? Okay, which one do you prefer to use, fields or properties? Properties? Look. He made mistake. Guys, properties, why properties? What is the reason that we use fields and what is the reason that we use properties? Because there is a kind of filter that you can get the value and see if it is fine or not. Man, aha moment happened. That's exactly what I wanted. And if you see in many people, they just use it randomly, sometimes fields, sometimes properties, but now you know why. I'm going to use it because one of the doors that I have forgotten to lock is this one. Then a person could say rating dog and a guy comes in without any filter. Does that make sense? And the whole idea, you might say that, Reza, I have a solution for that. I'm going to just check if the thing is dog, then I'm going to just, hey, the whole idea of using properties is just to have control centered in one place, not to scattered in everywhere. Okay.
Here, private. So there's one more thing we have to do in order to make this super secure. In other words, there's one more thing that we have to do to make sure that the rating is only set to one of these values. Up here in my constructor, when I set the rating, right here, I'm just assigning it a normal value. So technically the user could pass in whatever rating they wanted over here, and then I'm just going to set it to the rating. But now instead, I'm just going to say rating is equal to a rating. And what this means is now we're going to set the rating through this setter down here. When I use this capital R, it's essentially calling this setter down here and setting it that way. So now this is completely secure. And down here, what I can do now is I can set this to whatever I want, and it's going to be safe. So down here, I can say Avengers.rating. So I'm using this capital R now. And over here, if I wanted, I could pass in an invalid rating. So I could pass in like dog over here. And when I print it out, you'll see that we're going to get NR. So we're not going to get dog, we're actually going to get NR. And that's because we had to go through that setter. And the same goes for anything else. So I could say down here, like Shrek.rating is equal to cat. And if we try to print out Shrek.rating, then we're going to get NR because it's going to get filtered out by that setter. But here's the thing, if I wanted to set this to a valid rating, like if I set Shrek.rating equal to R, now it's going to be able to take that rating because it's valid. So that's kind of how we can use getters and setters. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll create getters and setters for each of the attributes inside of the classes. You don't have to, but a lot of times it can be useful. So what you want to do is just play around with that. And, basically these just make your class more secure. So they make it so someone couldn't, for example, give your movie an invalid rating.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for watching.
If you want to grab one thing from this, it would be whenever you want to define anything which you used before using fields, the best practice is using properties. Whether you are going to assign any regulations or not, that's a kind of to go. You can't say that, you know what, Reza, I'm sure that I'm not going to use any regulations. Hey, let's have nice, neat, like army, right? Everything are aligned, nicely ordered. And then whenever it is needed, you're going to just use it. Does that make sense? That's the kind of good practice. Apart from it, that was just, and let's just show you this one. I told you the useful website. But what I want you to see, I have already provided all those links to use our time more efficiently. Again, imagine that the class was not that much useful. I didn't learn very much from the content. The videos, I'm not a video person, imagine. Honestly, I personally prefer to learn anything that I want to learn. First, I YouTube it, right? And that's one of the problems for people not in your generation. I see my friends that they emigrated to Canada recently. They always ask me, Reza, what is the best insurance company? Where is the place that I can get a car? All those questions, somebody had a chance to think about them and uploaded a YouTube video. So ask any question first in YouTube and see what are the opinions. And apart from it, try to have search in Google. And the thing is, don't get me wrong. I told you that do not use ChatGPT for the answers. But whenever you're stuck somewhere and you say that, okay, this code doesn't work on my computer because I use, for instance, Mac or different version of an application. So it's going to give you solutions. And don't trust, many a time you see that ChatGPT is going to say, apologies, now I got that, yeah. So still the poor guy is learning, right? So let's just quickly read that properties you learned from the previous chapter, that private variables can only be accessed within the same class. So I see here we have a class named person, and we have name as what is this one? Imagine that you don't see this in the, yeah, it is field, and the next one is property. We have setter, getter. We didn't do any, and we go here, and guys, this is the code that this is the website that you're gonna have. Quickly go to this part, please, and just instead of Liam, use your beautiful name. Okay, it is done. And look at you can click on the try it as well. And you see that the whole code is not here. Don't worry, you have two tabs. One is prog CS and the other one is prog 2 CS. And the class is already there. You can just combine them in one file. And let me just get to the next. This is something that I very much like. This example gets to, but look at the problems. I'm telling you, from now on, all of us should, just use the criticism whenever we see any code, because we don't want to, just change people. We just want to have our own signature, right? You're gonna say, hey, this one, private X, what is it? Is it a number? What? I can't understand. And what is the class? This is the worst kind of thing that could happen. Neither the class nor the variables tell you what is happening. Is it student? Is it weight? Is it grade? Is it what? But the thing is, here I created an object and then I said, let's pass that 10 into X. And look at the difference between these two. It used the small letter for the field and capital letter for the properties. And The next, if you get there, you see that it says the getter setter using a little bit better kind of notation, underscore, that's a kind of standard. And we can learn from these guys. The comments are well defined and so on. I'm not going to take a time for such example. Let's go to the next one. Here, the beautiful thing is like a mini project. It's in here, but the problems that let me just share my opinions. And I want you, please, you look at here, you just say copy, you bring it to, I'm going to give you the link, don't worry. But the things that you need to change is changing those namespace. You can find the problem, Control A, Control K, F formatted. And here is the link of the, I'm gonna give you, but before, because if I start giving you, everybody's gonna try to just look at here, please, for a sec. What are the things that we don't like in this code? First thing first. Yeah, it should be underscore small e, because we're talking about fields, right? And here we have small, we should have small e. But what else? This one is fine. I like it. And that's funny. When I double click on it, the color code changed. Yesterday, that happened as well. Let me give you the code instead of the link this time. Control A, Control C. It's going to ease the job. Please spend a few seconds. Run the code. Start with the class. Explain it to your neighbors. Wait till he's waiting. Yes, it's time to talk. Done? Okay, let me just demonstrate. Reza asked me to explain. Guys, the first time that I wanted to explain to a class of 50, I remember my hand was like this. I wanted to just, yeah, everybody was looking at like, once. It was the worst thing could happen. But whenever I haven't tried any audience more than 300, I had, but not more than that. But no matter if you have 30 or 300, the principles are the same. If you're confident about the topic that you want to say, when you step into a place, just look at the people over there and just know that people are like you. They're just like your siblings. And just give them love and confidently start, I mean, just explain. So here, what do we have there? We say public int emp ID. We could say based on having setter and getter, that is our property, right? So in a little, just a few lines before, we defined two private fields. And we did it that way because we didn't want anybody access it without our permission, right? Any random guy who passes and just they can just, I mean, access the field. We didn't want that. So we make a barrier for that, and that is the property. So we say, if you want to set the value, get the value from the user, that's a keyword for anything that we want to set it inside a field, and then pass it inside the field. And then for here, whenever you want to read the value, you're gonna say get, and you say return that. The same applies to name as well. Here, simply in the program part, we create an object from the class, right? And that is employee with small e. That's a practice that we always do. And then we said, let's get to EMPID. We pass the value 101 into it, and the name is Pranaya, right? Simply now you can just, guys, whenever you say EMPID equal to 100, which part of the property is triggered? Setter part or getter part? Love the setter part. But whenever you want to say, hey, print that, the getter part, you got it. Everything is super clear. Awesome. Let's go to the next example that we have it here. Still, I don't feel very much comfortable about this. Let's go this part. This is very close to what I like, except I prefer to have underscore first name, underscore last name, right? For that, and that is because they are private values. Now we have setter getter for them, right? For name, for age. But the thing is, are we going to accept any age if -10, if a person says 220? So that is why I want you, this is the code. This time, I want you to spend a few minutes. I'm sorry. There we go. Except that underscore, for many reasons, it's a very good practice. Please scroll down to get to this part. And here is a clipboard sign. Click on it. This one, click on it. Bring it here. So here you have a class person. And here is the program part. Right? One of the things that I could make it better would be, instead of saying P1, var P1, what should I say? Lovely. I like that. So, and even if you have any objection here, it says that you mean class person. I like the way that politely it didn't say 100%. Do you think that it is person? Okay. So now I just change it, and P1 dot first name, P1 dot last name, and the age is 200. Excellent. Lovely. So look at here in the age part, that's what I like. It says that if the value is less than 0, or is it if the value is above 100, guys, or you have two ways of dealing with that. One, negative logic. If it is outside the range, say age must be between, you throw an exception, and that's not any exception. I very much like if the person was a little bit more accurate, saying that argument out of range exception. Because argument exception, it's hard to guess. Should it be integer and I entered float, for example? What was it? Okay, So just go through it, change the logic from negative to positive. Whoever could finish, please raise your hand. Yes, just simply. But we have to say first, if it is greater than, and, that's because, right? And the other thing is, in that case, you shouldn't throw exception. You should accept it, else you should throw. Awesome. We finished it. Now you wait. Okay, in that case, you throw exception. You should bring this one there, you should bring this one else. That makes sense. Yeah. Unfortunately, correct. But you should say L, yeah. Too late. Yes. I love the way that you say. Okay, so people who Manav, too late. Saram, thank you. Just, we had 3, we ran out of bonus one, sorry. Next time, Arjun, next. He's. He's willing to do anything, just saying, yeah. Okay, Jainam, thank you. Manav as well. Man, where are you?
I have never seen my section.
Arjun, I considered bonus mark as well, don't worry. Okay, guys, can I have your attention? One of the thing is, we say yes. The positive logic is if it is greater than or equals 0, we can accept the infant, which is, or if it is less than or equal, guys, 150 is too small. Let's say 250, huh? Guys, technology is going, yeah, let's just enjoy more. in this line. But the problem is I have forgotten to say this is the acceptable part. So this guy should get inside it. And if I leave it there, still it's not correct. I have to say else means that if it is not in the range, then I should, right? Does that make sense? The other things that the small, tiny, teeny things that we can just, do is using underscore. I'm not going to just do that at the moment, but I prefer to have those thingies for all those guys. For instance, yes, I know intentionally I want to see every single one. And the age also, let's just change it this way and this way. Control dot can solve all the issues at once, I know, but where is the age? Here it is. And now if we just run the code again, it's gonna just show, yeah, fine. But the other problem is it doesn't show anything. So technically, what should we do? First, having a post public override string to show something, and then we can say, hey, please print the output, right? That kind of stuff. But apart from that, by saying all those things, now we are ready to get to, let me just close all those tabs because we have already covered everything. Now we start the actual content of the PowerPoint. And here it is. So it talks about the recap. Obviously, property is one of the members. And the thing is, the getter, the setter part, we talked. And this is the first practice that we have. If you get this part, guys, if you get this, you get the whole property concept. I'm not gonna give you the whole code. Where is the thingy? I just give you the program part, Control C. And I want you, please, just a sec. I want you, please, you complete the thermometer part. Okay, everything is done. Done. But let's just get to the class. Guys, can you explain what you learned from this to your neighbors? This is the time that you need to talk.
try to talk with him, he start laughing.
I do not blame him. Because you're a nice person. That's man, you can talk to me, don't worry. You can talk. Okay. Okay. Let me just bring one thing for you, and that is, yeah. I quickly read this stuff. The reality is here, we have a class called thermometer. And in there, what do we have? We have a Celsius, right? We have a Celsius. I'm sorry, the example that I said that it shows that you know everything about the properties, it's down, but we are not there yet. But this one is super convenient. We have a Celsius field underscore Celsius, and we have getter and setter for that Celsius. So you get a value, right? Simply, and this line, it's going to call the setter part, and then you are gonna just show the same by calling the getter part. Lovely. And it says that if there is no logic, instead of using, guys, guys, I know that you are the master of it, but we are gonna build up on top of this some more content. You know it works, yeah, but what if instead of this one, I'm gonna get rid of everything from here, and I say prop tap, and then I just replace this one with double Celsius. Under the hood, actually, it already created underscore Celsius with small c. And you don't need to emphasize on that, saying that, hey, because it's what happens behind the scene. How about the next part, guys? This is what we already. Understanding this code, this one, means you know the properties thoroughly. And I give you the program part. Guys, spend good amount of time honestly. Spent good amount of time, and let me just ease the job for this part and give you the screenshot of it. If this part, please write this and explain it to your neighbors very much. And then I'm gonna just explain after that. You have the code, the main part there. Understood? Guys, it's not the matter of best practice or not. We just want to learn something. We said at the beginning of the concept of properties. Properties are what? Wrappers around fields. What actually located in memory is field, but what we work with as a kind of filter, whether to save it or to fetch it, would be properties. Look at this one. Here I say in the class that we call it distance, the rate for converting kilometer to miles is 0.62 almost, with some precisions. But let me ask you one question. What does it mean, kilometer to miles? Means that 1 kilometer is 0.62, almost 0.62 miles. Is it clear so far? So I have that, what do we call it? Constant somewhere. But one of the comments that we could have is, this is a constant, but did we use constant keyword here? No, that's the first comment. Okay. Did we use the style of constant? Yes, all the letters are capped. So what about the other one? Guys, how many fields do we have here? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. We have constant keywords here. We just didn't pay attention for a sec. We have constant. How many fields do we have here? Tell me. Just one field we have, and that is private double kilometer. But wait a second. Here we use this property, and we use this property as well, right? We have two properties, and we use just one field. Is it possible? Let's just look at it. Guys, we say if there is any kilometer, if you get a kilometer, just set the value inside kilometer. No problemo. Huh? If you want to fetch the value from there and show it, not an issue. You go there and use the getter part, return that value. Is it clear? Please pay attention to this. Technically, we have something here, which is going to be kilometer, huh? And whenever you say set the value over there, it's gonna use, guys, what is this? You see small letter. I say this is a place in the memory, which is kilometer, right? So if I say 10 kilometer, for example, it's gonna be 10 kilometer. But what if I say I want miles? Technically, I don't have any memory for it. Means what? Means I can use one trick. I can have a wrapper, right? Capital M. And look what is happening in the code. I say, hey, if you want to set any value, I say miles is equal to 50, for example. Guys, listen to this. Sorry, I'm gonna knock the door. If I want to place 50 miles in the memory, guys, 50 miles in the memory is something around 80. You know that, 80 kilometers. Technically, I'm going to say whatever we have, whatever we have, whenever you get the value from miles and you need to place it here, you need to do what? You need to, we have kilometer, that's the problem. We have kilometer to mile thing. That's a little bit confusing. Kilometer to mile thing is 0.62, right? Whenever you have a mile like 50 miles, right? You have to divide it by that small value, 0.62, to make it almost 80 some kilometers. Does that make sense? And whenever you have the value here, you have the value, imagine that you have 80 some kilometers and you want to convert it back to miles, what should you do? You should multiply that value because it's a great number, 82, multiply by 0.62, it's going to give you 50 miles. Does that make sense, guys? And imagine that we have just one location in the memory. Long story short, if you have 50 miles and you want to give it to kilometers, you need to divide it by a smaller number to get the bigger number. And if you have that 80 some kilometers in the memory, that is what you locate. Guys, you are not gonna have 50 anywhere in the memory. what you store is this number. What you store is this number. And whenever you want to fetch that value, if it is kilometer, you have to multiply it by 0.62 to lower it down to miles. Does that make sense? Now, if you look at the code, it tells you, hey, I have the kilometer 80 some, multiply it by 6 point something, lower it down to 50. And if I have that 82 something divided by 0.62 to increase the value. Does that make sense? Look at this part, guys. Did I occupy any part of the memory for miles? So we have properties wrapper around the kilometers. We have properties wrapper around exactly again kilometers, just changing it, showing it, it is miles. What are the other places that I can use this for degree in centigrade? I can use it for Fahrenheit. I don't need to assign two separate parts of the memories. Does that make sense? Do we normally use this strategy when we write code? No. We try to simplify the things, right? It's a kind of pros cons. We have some calculations, we save the memory, but memory saving compared to the calculations and the time that you have to spend to understand what is happening, it doesn't worth it. Does that make sense? Now with that explanation, just quickly tell your neighbors what is happening in this code. And I want a volunteer, Arjun, to explain the code after that. Now spend 2-3 minutes, explain what is happening here after that.
The simpler approach will be to make another constant from 9 to 100.
The simpler approach would be to have a method and to have two different fields, two different properties. Yes?
Like you said, the properties are not isolated. Is there ever like a case where you have so much code where you're gonna like have that where you don't have like some fields for the program for that?
I didn't grab the.
So the fields take up space.
The fields take up space, yes.
The properties don't.
Yes, they don't.
So is there like a program so good where that you have to use properties? Or
Well, the reason that we use properties is not to save the space, to make the code secure. That's the reason for what we write. But the thing here, I just wanted to show you that actually we don't have any field for that property for mile. They just use the same field, kilometer. Just different representations. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. Can I have your, don't worry, sit, yeah. I just wanted to tease you and that was enough. Can I have your attention? Everybody, look at this one, please. I create one object from the class distance and I call it this. And I say this dot km is equal to 10. What does it mean? I get to this part and I say, if I say this dot km is equal to 10 means go to this part, go to the setter part to be more accurate, get that value, which is 10, and place it inside the kilometer field. Who said that? Santiago, thank you very much. Okay. Look. What is inside? I open the door of kilometer 10 is there. Look at the next part. Now, I say this dot kilometer, am I going to ask the setter or getter now?
Getter.
The getter part. So it's going to be this line and it's going to show you 10. And I say this dot mile. Uh-oh, should I call the setter part or getter part for that?
Yeah.
Definitely getter part. I'm gonna get to the getter, but the problem is we don't have any miles. We go to the same location and it is 10 over there. I see it, 10. And I need to multiply it by 0.62 and it is going to show you 6.21. And why here is a 6.21? Because we set F2, just two precisions. And I have a point. I'm going to tell you one thing in a few seconds. Now I say mile. This dot mile is equal to 50. Setter part or getter part? You know that, setter. We are going to get to the setter part. Get to the setter part. And here, look at this one. I say whatever the value is, which is 50, divided by 0.62, which is going to make 80 some, and place it into kilometer part. So I open it, I see that 82 point something over there. Does that make sense? I don't save miles anywhere. I save the kilometer part. Look at the next part, guys. Now I say this dot miles. Okay, you know that getter part. I'm gonna get there. But if I open, I have just kilometer. I have 82. And I'm gonna say multiply 0.62 and it's going to make 50 for me. And it's gonna show that. And the good thing is I don't need to do any conversion for that part. This getter 82 is already there. I'm just gonna bring it to me. You got that part, right? Everything is hopefully everything is super clear by saying that this is the most sophisticated thing that you could have in properties. If you know that, good job. The points that I wanted to, actually one of the friends said something and I said, there is a point that I forgot it. If I remember that, I'm gonna explain it in a few minutes. But by saying that, we get to the next part and it says that, yeah. Okay, that is a slide number 8. If we go to slide number 8, it has, this is what we covered. It has month, and it says that if the value is less than 0 and if the value is greater than 11, guys, these are jokes for you now. You know it better than anyone else. So for the get, you already have there, you just read it. For the set part, if the value is out of the range, you're gonna just say, let's say 0. Are we going to say 0? Do we have any month equal to 0? That's why I said slightly modified. Huh? If it is out of the range, let's just say it is January. Does that make sense? Okay. And try this code, guys. I'm gonna give you the, the program part. And I want you to just try the class date. Abdul, everything is fine at your end? Okay, awesome. Also, please change the logic from negative to positive. That's another challenge. Done. Awesome. Okay. Correct me if I'm saying nonsense. Here, if it is greater than or equal 1, we should keep all, right? Awesome. Because we want to say if it is, yeah, greater than 1 and it is less than 12 is fine, right? Lovely. Less than or equal to. I'm happy that I don't have midterm next. I mean, then I should have lots of trouble. Okay, in that case, I'm gonna say, put that thingy here, and we are done, right? Else part, right? Yeah, okay. Lovely. So this is going to be the positive logic, and I prefer this one compared to the negative one. Our brain is designed to understand positive logic. If you ask, if yes, sir. Means that this one, you're absolutely right, sir. But it is going to work as well. The reason for that is, that's the best version actually. The reason for that is we don't have any value, but it's going to get into the things. Give me a second if I can just put blame on anybody here. Yeah, because here it says that 0 to value. Guys, sorry. Yeah, but that's the better practice. Let me just see. So I just use the value here, but I give everybody a bonus point on calendar. So the correct way is underscore month for this one as well. And I said positive logic. Look at this, guys. Honestly, I didn't change that one. It was, you saw that in this month as well. Sorry?
Control Z.
Look, Control Z is going to change this one. You test me. See you next semester for this top Control V. Actually, I like that. I'm gonna make you responsible for checking people in midterm for ChatGPT. Okay, so guys, the next thing is this name. Sometimes it happens, just check, let's before getting there, let me just check 2 values. If I don't have, yep. If I don't have, if I just don't have any issue like adding 7, it's going to just simply show 7. But if it is something like 17, it's going to do what? It's going to get into that trap and shows 1. What if I have just set without any of these thingies? Simple. In that case, it's going to accept invalid and it's going to just show that thing. Let me just save that thingy before I go any further. Control S. The next thing is name. It is possible that people leave the name part, which is essential for some of the, like, for instance, you work for a governmental sectors, and for forms, they need to enter SIN number, name, last name. Huh? In that situation, we need to check if there is a valid value entered, yes or no. But in some cases, you already have a data set. Guys, look at this one. You already have a data set. And in that data set, for that specific column, there is no value. Do you want just to look at the monitor and see nothing over there? It should say that, for instance, empty, unknown, not entered, or something. You got it? Listen to this. It's not going to change anything in the setting part. It is going to fetch the value and check the value. If it is null or if it is empty, let's just show unknown or not entered. Say something about it. Does that make sense? Look, for the set part, whatever it is, I'm going to set it. You can put enough regulations to prevent from entering nothing, right? But imagine that I check and the name is equal to nothing, means nothing is there. Then if that is the case, show not available. Else, show the name that you have entered. Does that make sense? So you see that regulations are not, if somebody asks you that, hey, are we going to, for instance, one of the most common things you have seen, people for Ontario, sometimes they say ON, sometimes they say Ontario or something. You want to just, for all the cases, use Ontario. You check if the name is equal to Ontario or if the name is equal to ON for all of them. Just show Ontario. I'm going to send you this code. Look at this part. And I want you to change it after that. You have the code, guys. I want you to change it after that to a very simple setter getter, no regulations. Please replace my name with your beautiful name. Mo, Abdul, after finishing this stay, I need your help for that thing. Bless you. Okay, can I have your attention, everybody? Look at this one. For the name, when we have some values, it shows the name. But for the time that we have nothing there, it shows NA because of that. What if I just say return name? What's going to happen if I say return name? Let's just see. Yeah, it's just looking at you. That's the last thing that we have to do as developers. Okay, though. So alternative for this one, this is something, and I have no clue that's what that symbol is. Read it at your convenience. So we use that mostly in the recent versions. We use lambda style. You just don't need to say for this specific case, return kind of thing. And we have it in .NET Framework 5 and above. In other words, if you heard from people that they said in Visual Studio 2022, you can access these kind of things. Yes, they're right too. And instead of just return that thing, just we use lambda. The same thing applies when you want to set. You say lambda, the name equal to value. Apart from it, there's a good news, guys. We can not only finish it on time, but also we have time for quiz. We didn't have a chance for the other group. Yay, I know that how happy you are. So let's go to this. If we don't have any regulations there, it's going to just show you the nothing. The last the last part of slide number 11 is to have an account balance. Actually, this is quiet. I give you the program part. It is quite challenging in terms of understanding the code thoroughly. And I give you the screenshot of that part, please. I want you not only think about what is happening in this code, but also find some use cases for it. Means that you have a solution, let's search for some problems. Sorry. It works. I don't know. That's why I said it does something. Okay, I'm gonna talk about it, but try to look at it from awesome. You said that that's the problem. Look at it from this angle. It's not a problem. There should be a usage for it. Now, from that perspective, look at it. Okay. Yes.
Using the credit score system, right? Every time someone accesses the credit score, they show us a log in the banking.
Wrong. Okay. Can I have your attention, please? Look at this one. Man, it says that we have a class name account balance and we have two fields over there. One is underscore balance and the other one is number of time accessed. Huh? The thing is, for the balance one, we have a property, right? And that property, for the set part, we have no issue. We say whatever the value is, put it inside the field balance, right? But for the get part, we say, hey, whenever we get that value, just increase the number of time accessed. What could be the use of it? I remember the time that when CIVC launched their mobile app, they said, hey, if you just use this mobile app, you're gonna increase your score. I didn't know how it worked. Then I realized that it should be something like this. Whenever you read your account value, right, it should increase the number of time that you accessed your account. So in that case, look at the thing that we have here, and then intentionally, I'm gonna run the code, but I'm gonna pause it here. Manav, be here. Look at this one. Here we say, create one object. When you create an object, is it going to increase that number of accessed? No. If we say, okay, and you remember that here number of access just shows the value that you have there. If you say, let's place 100 inside your account, is it going to increase that value? No, you just call the setter part, no getter part. But the time that you say, hey, show me the balance, what is this part? It's the getter part. It reads from there and it's going to show you 100. And now the value is equal to 1. And then if you just say now, show the value once again, it's going to just increase that value because you called getter 2 times. Does that make sense, everybody? Awesome. So by saying that, technically we are done with this, but I mentioned 2 more things here. One of them, if you see, is the complementary part, and the other one, okay, let's first one at a time. I said that here's an example of a C# class with a property includes checking in the setter. I said if the name does not exist or it is null. So if you say something is equal to null, or you say double quote, null, I have forgotten to put any value there. Double quote means I didn't forget. I don't have any money. There are 2 things. When you forget an occasion, your partner has 1 penalty for such cases. If you don't have money, but you remember the occasion, there is another penalty for you, right? So this guy is going to cover, it says that is null or empty. So you're gonna throw argument exception for that. Look at this one. If the age is outside, this is a kind of nice way of handling it, saying that argument out of range exception, right? You could say argument exception, but it's not going to help the user to understand by just tracing the error message. This is something that I wanted to just have one good example for you. The other one, as you see, I mentioned what I thought that we do not have that much time to meditate together. So you have something you can go home and think about this one. Before anything further, guys, you know that after the reading week, we are going to have our midterm. We are going to use 2 hours of our time to cover the next topic, and it's going to be classes. If even we can just go any further, we are going to cover the operator as well. I think that today could link some of the dots together, and now we can have a better solid understanding of the object-oriented. If you think that there are lots of things that you need to practice more, you're not alone. It took me a heck of a time to, just to get to know the topic. It's not an easy topic. It's not an easy part of the education that you are in. Whatever you learn, awesome. It partially takes time. Okay. And in the midterm exam, Festus, it's not gonna be anything different or surprising. They're gonna be similar to the quizzes that we have. So we are gonna have 3 questions, 3 might be 4 questions, and you have 2 hours to finish, right? Technically 1 hour with marking and so on and so forth, 2 hours. So I divide the next session to 2 parts. By saying that, I'm gonna just close the recording and I'm gonna ask you voting for something, and whatever you say, I'm gonna accept that. And we are gonna just